チェックメイト。言い伝え通りだな。光は闇に敗北する。まだ終わってないよ。
お待たせ。
おいおい、物知りはしないか。
相手にとって不足なし。
俺たちキーブレードヒーロー3と僕たちビッグヒーロー6が力を合わせればどんな敵にだって負けない。続けてみろ。たくさんの人を助けたい。その思いはベイマックスにみんなの心に宿ってる。その心のつながりがヒーローたちの強さ。闇に負ける気がしない。
それはきっとリクが大切な人を守る強さを手に入れたってことじゃないかな。
リク、今大丈夫ですか？
ねえ、見て。あれは何かしら。白くてふわふわしてる。
ジャック・スパロー、マイ。
私はエルサを連れ戻したいの。
アナならきっと仲直りできるさ。
Drop it. Hey everybody, John Iderola, Jane Cougar, Helen Hong's back!
Hi, everybody.
Wait, don't tell me, you're back. Okay, she's on there doing actual comedy, and also does Go Back Yourself. She's been in Inside Llewyn Davis, Pretty Little Liars, Parks and Recreation. You get it.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Anna Kasparian is here
Hi.
in the second power panel. Bit of a living legend, Ben Mankiewicz. Just kidding. Tom Morello. Ben will also be here. But yes, Tom Morello will rage with us in the second hour. He's going to be on the power panel. So that's fun for everybody. Also fun for everybody, I think the jury might have come in on Brett Kavanaugh. So now, in reality, no, I wish it was a reality. We're going to give you the reality in a second. But I believe we're going to show you a number of videos today where you guys can come probably to the same conclusion that I did. That the guy's a liar. Okay, so now we've kept a very, very open mind throughout. I just want to look at some of those videos again with you guys and then see if you think he's credible. And I think that gives us an insight into the kind of guy he is. But John made a good point, by the way. Before I dropped it, I should have started with a little bit of, here, come to me on this one. A little bit of, no, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right, okay? No, not right. Right. That's fine. The anger is fine. Don't make fun of the crying. Okay, that's my line. For whatever it's worth, that's my line. Okay? But we have dramatic developments. So, John, go.
Okay, we don't just have dramatic developments. We have too many dramatic developments. Things have been developing incredibly quickly since this morning. I think it's fair to say that we started the day thinking the Republicans are unabashed. They're just going to push him through, and it appeared that they had the votes because fairly early on today, Senator Jeff Flake said he would be voting in support of Kavanaugh. He was one of those votes on the Republican side that we thought, hey, maybe he will be convinced by Christine Blasey Ford's testimony, and that appeared to be undercut by his statements early this morning. Then, dramatic news. It developed that he was actually interested in some sort of limited in scope and time FBI investigation being done. But at that point, it didn't mean that it was actually going to happen. But then things continued to develop. Pressure was put on the Republicans. The Senate Judiciary Committee came out with a statement saying that they, too, would support this investigation. By the way, in the background, perhaps working towards this, you had the American Bar Association pushing for a halt and an investigation. You had the Yale Dean of the Law School, where he went pushing for an investigation, and eventually Flake. And then you had Collins and Murkowski and Manchin coming out in support of that as well. And then we had, I guess, the person most responsible for actually having this, Donald Trump, put out a statement saying, I've ordered the FBI to conduct a supplemental investigation to update Judge Kavanaugh's file. As the Senate has requested, this update must be limited in scope and completed in less than 1 week. Which, get used to those words, because in the future, if a Democrat's ever accused of anything, the investigation will be limited in scope and time. Less than 1 week, perhaps. I think when they were pushing for all the Clinton investigations in the 90s, limited in scope is what they were stressing from the very beginning. But in any event, we are going to have at least some sort of investigation.
And so, what's your initial response? Did you expect this? Are you heartened by it? Do you think that it might be setting us up for a defeat in a week?
Yeah. So let's take it one at a time. First of all, yes, I'd like to note the hypocrisy for the record, and then we can move on. The Benghazi hearings were not limited in time. There was approximately 28 of them. Okay, it's a hyperbole, but not by much. I believe there might literally have been 8 or 9 Benghazi hearings. And then Whitewater is a perfect example of not limited in scope. It was about a real estate deal in Arizona. By the time they were finished, they were talking about cigars, including Kavanaugh, who asked the raunchiest, most, literally the dirtiest questions I've ever seen in public life. Kavanaugh thought we should probe into Clinton's sex life as graphic as you could imagine. So, interesting note of hypocrisy on that, too. And what no one ever remembers about the Whitewater hearings against Bill Clinton was that at the end, Kessler was like, by the way, he didn't do it. Nothing wrong with the real estate deal at all. But on the other hand, we got him on sex! Those are the same guys now complaining about sex questions. Okay, now as to these, to this investigation, it's what we wanted. We said a week. They gave us a week. I don't know what limited in scope means. That's very important. Does that mean only Christine Blasey Ford? Are they not allowed to talk to Debbie Ramirez? Are they not allowed to talk to Julie Swetnick? I would want them to do. I'm not positive about the last two because of some fact patterns that are unclear. For example, Swetnick says, "Hey, Kavanaugh was present during a situation where she was gang raped." I want the FBI asking, what does present mean? I mean, did he participate? Did he not participate? I mean, that's a heavy charge to level on someone and say he's present and not clarify. So I hope it's not limited in that scope, but it might be. So as to whether it will be a rubber stamp or a real investigation, well, I guess that's up to the FBI.
I feel like this limited in scope thing is so annoying, and it's not, let me tell you, as with sex, the tip approach makes nobody happy. Right? So the limited in scope is not going to make the Republicans happy because it's still a 1 week delay. And as we've heard from the hearings, Kavanaugh's bitching and moaning about how these past 10 days have been hell forever. Another week. Oh my God, I'm going to die. So he's going to be bitching about it. They're going to be bitching about it. The Democrats are going to be bitching if they are too limited in scope. So this just makes nobody happy.
Yeah, I think that, I'm jaded enough to agree that it's likely that the limited in scope portion of that could undermine any good intentions that are coming from people like Senator Jeff Flake. I'm worried that they might be using this as a way to hush Democrats up and also, play this game and make it seem like they did their duty, their due diligence in this whole case. So the American people are convinced that the bad actors here are really the Democrats. But either way, I think it is important to at least see senators on the right finally accept that a further FBI investigation makes sense. So they keep mentioning how Kavanaugh's been investigated in the past. But here's the thing. Sometimes you don't find what you don't know you're looking for, right? And so now the FBI has a bunch of names that they should go to, people that they should go to and conduct a bunch of interviews, including Mark Judge, who finally today said that he would cooperate with any investigation. And I think he absolutely should, and I think the FBI needs to go to him directly.
Yeah. There's been 6 background checks, and this didn't come up. Okay, well, they didn't talk to her, so how would it have come up? They just stare at him across the table for a bit, and he blathers out, I tried to rape somebody. No, that didn't happen. So, yeah, of course they didn't know about Christine Blasey Ford until she came forward. Now, it's a ridiculous situation that we're in where so many of the Republican senators clearly were not going to be swayed by anything. It didn't matter what Christine Blasey Ford said. It didn't matter how enraged and emotional and hyperbolic Kavanaugh got. They weren't going to be affected by it. There was only a few that hypothetically might. Flake is one that we thought might be affected by that. Now, as of right now, he's still going to vote for him, so perhaps not so much. But I am curious how Jeff Flake is thinking about this. So why don't we play the video of him initially requesting this investigation, because it does actually have a reference to the scope thing in it.
I've been speaking with a number of people on the other side. We've had conversations ongoing for a while with regard to making sure that we do due diligence here. And I think it would be proper to delay the floor vote for up to, but not more than 1 week, in order to let the FBI continue to do an investigation limited in time and scope to the current allegations that are there, and limited in time to no more than 1 week. And I will vote to advance the bill to the floor with that understanding.
So he says there with the current allegations. Well, there isn't just one current allegation. There are allegations, and that doesn't mean that he's going to be held to that. He doesn't, after all, he's not going to be setting up the investigation. And it's possible that Trump will say you will only talk to these 4 people or whatever. Forget Deborah Ramirez, forget all of that. But he seems at least interested in possibly finding out a little bit more that's going on. I'm probably giving him too much credit.
He's being so wishy-washy. Even the way that he was saying, like, I would feel more comfortable. What does that even mean?
I think I know what it means, and I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic than you guys. So I think what it means is I hope Murkowski and Collins back me on this, but I haven't had a chance to confirm it with them. And it turns out later in the day, they're like, yeah, we're with Flake. We need a week-long investigation. So that's what he meant by, like, I hope we can kind of do this, right, Lisa? Right, Susan? Right? And he turns out he was right about that. And I also want to give him credit for his permanently concerned face.
I know, yeah. Yeah.
As we'll get into a little bit later on the show, there might be a reason that at that particular time when he's filming that, he's got some concern floating around in his head.
Yeah, I know.
Interaction he had. But we'll talk about that in a bit.
No, go back to John for a second, because I like how Flake is behind him, concerned even about John. Okay, in that graphic. Okay. So, but he always looks like that, to be fair. Okay. Now, why am I a little bit more optimistic? So, first of all, let's just acknowledge that they blinked, because this is not the right time for them to say, okay, fine, FBI investigation. The right time would have been the minute Dick Durbin asked Kavanaugh, instead of going, well, I mean, I don't know, really? FBI, I don't know if we should look into that. If Kavanaugh could have said, damn right, of course I want an FBI investigation to clear my name, that would have worked a lot better. Instead, he had to hem and haw again with Durbin, with Coons, with Kamala Harris, and so they did not play this well. So they endured the political damage of seeming to not want an investigation, which kind of looks like a cover-up, and then had to blink and say, oh, okay, investigation. So it was not three-dimensional chess. They lost on that issue, okay? Secondly, it's not like the FBI and Donald Trump are getting along great these days. So it's when Trump says, hey, FBI, okay, do a limited investigation in scope, the FBI would be like, remind me again what you said about us the other day in a tweet, right? Okay, all right, no, we got the investigation. Sit down, we got it. Thank you for the authority. We appreciate it. So, and now it doesn't quite work that way. It's different people within the FBI, and they're not supposed to hold grudges, and they probably don't. But I think it is fair to say that they have acted independently from the White House. So once you give them some authority, it'll be interesting to see how they conduct themselves. And then finally, even if they do throw the game and they're like, hey, look, we can seem neutral to Trump or unbiased by giving Trump and the Republicans what they want, a BS investigation. At the end of the day, there is one other thing the Republicans have to concern themselves with, and it's this, right? Because if a week later they come out and they're like, yeah, we looked into it. I mean, we talked to one or two people, and I mainly talked to Kavanaugh, and Kavanaugh says they didn't do it. Well, there's all of us. There's all the women across the country. There's all the people who are concerned across the country and go, that was your investigation? Oh, okay, but we'll see you in November. So, and you think, well, okay, yeah, what do they care? No, they do care. I mean, because they could lose a lot of those swing seats in Florida and so many other places. So, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to get, a rush job where they go, well, FBI couldn't conclude. They couldn't conclude. What can we do? We got to move on. We got to vote. And that is entirely possible. One last wrinkle to this, which then goes back to pessimism, which is that they might think we're going to lose the elections anyway. This is our last great hope to get an angry male on the court. And boy, he's angry, and he hates the Democrats. So before we lose, let's get him on there. Yeah.
It's funny because all of this has been so hectic and crazy, and there's been so many updates that I haven't really had a chance to sit and think about the statements regarding how limited this investigation will be, how it's a limited scope investigation. And now I'm just kind of angry Like, I'm glad they're going to be investigating, but are you kidding me right now? Like, there are allegations of rape involved. Limited in scope, what does that mean? No, not limited in scope. This is a serious crime. I know that he's not facing a criminal investigation yet, but right now we're talking about someone on the highest level of the U.S. justice system who could potentially be a rapist. And we're having conversations about, let's do a limited scope investigation to suss out whether or not this guy should be a Supreme Court justice. Get the hell out of here. These people are supposed to be representing us. The only role of the government is to protect its citizens, and we don't have that, okay? We have a bunch of elderly clowns, let's just keep it 100, running the Senate, in Congress, not representing our best interests, and at the end of the day, what is it that they love about Kavanaugh so much that they're willing to sacrifice our safety to get him, confirmed as a Supreme Court justice? He's pro-corporate. Okay, so I'm very curious what the corporate backers are doing behind the scenes to ensure that these Republican senators push him through as a Supreme Court justice as soon as possible.
And by the way, so you mentioned the actual accusations of rape, or at least being there. That's what they're calling like the craziest instance. A porn lawyer is talking about the gang rape accusations. Well, even that one, the craziest one, the one that should be easiest to knock down, she says that Kavanaugh and Mark Judge were involved in these non-consensual gang rapes. Okay, well, Mark Judge's ex-girlfriend just came out and said that Mark Judge admitted to doing this. He denies that. But what did Julie Swetnick coordinate with one of his ex-girlfriends from years ago back in college to put this up? Or did she just accidentally come up with a theory that one of his exes is willing to corroborate? I mean, what are the chances of that? That she just accidentally happened onto a crazy, radical lie that also is confirmed by someone who knows Kavanaugh's best friend and drinking buddy.
What's bugging me, too, is that everyone's jumping on the Swetnick accusation as being the most horrible one, but even Dr. Ford's accusation alone, like, she thought she was going to die because he was covering her face and she couldn't breathe, and people are like, it's just groping. Like, what teenage boy doesn't grope? It's like, are you out of your mind? If you're any man who has never covered a woman's mouth while trying to rip her clothes off to the point where she couldn't breathe, you should be enraged by this.
Exactly. And by the way, I just want to clarify one thing. When I mentioned elderly senators, I'm not saying that because I think, they're older, so we shouldn't take them seriously. I'm saying that because a lot of them are from a different time. And when you hear phrases like "Make America Great Again," what does that include? It includes a time when American women, or women in general in this country, would just have to take it and shut up. Okay, they had no justice on their side. And so I feel like they're from a time where they don't understand the gravity of this situation and how much it affects women's lives. They're from a time when it was acceptable, when it wasn't that big of a deal.
One last thing to give you a sense of who might be right and who might not, and let's just all hope that the FBI does a real investigation, in which case we might be closer to finding out, is that if I'm Kavanaugh, and I think, or the Republicans, and I think it's the Swetnick allegations, that's the third woman, are outrageous and ridiculous, I think, please investigate, because we'll be able to knock that one down really easily, and then we will go all across the country. We knew it! We told you it's all fake! Even if the other two are not fake, it would give them an ability to call everything fake if they could disprove one. Limited in scope, you should want to dive into the Swetnick allegations immediately to show how false they are, because you're saying they sound outrageous, right? Well, then go show how outrageous they are, and if it's false, then you're going to have, a huge win on your side. I don't know why you would want to limit that scope, unless you think Swetnick's right. Her allegations about gang rape are right. Man, and if you think that, and you say, no, don't look into it, wow. Okay, but we'll see. So, guys, but bottom line is Anna's righteous anger is absolutely spot on. But we asked for a week-long FBI investigation yesterday, and we got one. So cross your fingers. The FBI is going to do it honestly, and that's our best hope. So let's see what they come up with.
Yeah. So why don't we talk briefly about why they blinked? You said that they didn't play this the way that they would have had they wanted this before. Kavanaugh could have been the one to be calling for it, which would have made him seem to be honest. Instead, it seems now like it's being done against his will. But they did blink, and there are a couple of explanations for that. We'll get into several of them. Donald Trump, his response to this I think it's fair to say, and you'll see the video, that it's kind of changed a little bit since yesterday. Initially, coming out of the Kavanaugh testimony, he didn't even make any reference to Christine Blasey Ford. He just said that what Kavanaugh said was strong, put out like a single tweet, which is odd for Donald Trump, that he was very restrained in terms of talking about this. And then today comes, and we have a video. Donald Trump is, I believe, out of the country. I think he's in Chile, possibly. In any event, he's asked about this. And take a look at this video. It's a little bit long, but he has multiple opportunities to do what he always does in communication, and you'll see that he passes up basically all of them.
I'm just hearing a little bit about it because I've been with the president of Chile and we're talking about some very important subjects, but I'm sure it will all be very good. I guess the vote was a positive vote, but there seems to be a delay.
And what did you think of Dr. Ford's testimony?
I thought her testimony was very compelling, and she looks like a very fine woman to me. Very fine woman. And I thought that Brett's testimony, likewise, was really something that I haven't seen before. It was incredible. It was an incredible moment, I think, in the history of our country. But certainly she was a very credible witness. She was very good in many respects. And I think that I don't know if this is going to continue onward or are we going to get a vote.
Have you thought at all about the replacement for Judge Kavanaugh?
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
What's your message for Murkowski and Collins?
I have no message. They have to do what they think is right. There's no message whatsoever. They have to do what they think is right. They have to be comfortable with themselves, and I'm sure that's what they are.
Would you be willing to reopen the background investigation, Kavanaugh?
I'm going to rely on all of the people, including Senator Grassley, who's doing a very good job. That'll be a decision that they're going to make, and I suspect they'll be making some decision soon, whether to take a vote or to do whatever else they want to do. I will be totally reliant on what Senator Grassley and the group decides to do.
Look, there's a lot there. Now, he did say that he hasn't been thinking of any replacements. That's what you'd expect Trump to say. But aside from that, he says he doesn't know if they'll even end up having a vote. He's just going to defer to Grassley. He has no advice for him. On Collins and Murkowski, no, they just have to do, what they want to do. He said very positive things about Christine Blasey Ford. His defense of Kavanaugh was both hyperbolic in saying it's something we've never seen before, but he didn't say he convinced the nation that he didn't do this thing or anything like that. This seems like a very careful statement from a man who is almost never careful.
Well, I mean, I feel like they inject him with a tranquilizer, and it lasts for a little while. And once it wears off, believe me, we'll all know about it. It'll probably be on later tonight. Usually Friday nights he goes on crazy tirades, or Saturday morning. But obviously I'm joking about the tranquilizer, kind of. But the one other thing I want to add is, like, the way he's commenting about the testimony from both Kavanaugh and Dr. Blasey Ford, it's like he's thinking they're auditioning for one of his crappy reality shows.
I was just thinking that. He's totally got, like, apprentice producer head on, be like... It was incredible. It was great TV.
I've never seen anything like it before.
He cried. I mean, when do you see that? Like,
he did say that she seemed very credible, though. Yeah.
She did.
And look, she's been, like, I don't know if you guys watched Fox News last night. They had Juanita Broderick on, and it was just designed to shred her. Right-wing media was, like, they came out of a Kavanaugh testimony, like, tasting blood. They were ready to pounce on this thing. And he talks with Sean Hannity most nights. Him being super careful is either three-dimensional chess, which seems even less likely than him being careful in his communication, or maybe they're getting some internal polling. Maybe there's a focus group on the testimony. Maybe they're actually worried about this thing. Yeah. Or he's spoken with Collins or Murkowski, and he thinks that they're questioning the actual vote.
Yeah. So first, quick clarification. Obviously, he's in the U.S. He's in the White House. He happened to be talking to the leader of Chile. Now, onto the substance of it. I think that his aides must have done a great job of convincing him that if he talks against Dr. Blasey Ford at all, that it will cost them votes and he will lose power in the next 2 years. and they must have had overwhelming proof to get him to calm down and not attack her, which is his want, right? And then the second part of it might be that his aides convinced him he really might not survive. Like, he, not just losing Collins and Murkowski to what we already know, but you're ordering an FBI investigation. There's some chance he did it. So don't get too far out there telling everybody how awesome he is and how terrible she is, because in a week we might find out that it's the opposite. Now remember, McConnell, Anna made this point like almost a week ago. It was a great point. McConnell warned him, don't pick Kavanaugh, and he said, oh, it's because he has too many documents. Okay, no, that's not why. I don't know why.
Too many calendars.
Yeah, too many calendars might be it. So there might have been another warning to Trump. Hey, listen, go ahead. Remember when we told you not to pick him? Okay, this is why. So be cool, otherwise you're going to embarrass yourself. Who's the only person Donald Trump ever cares about? Himself. So, but you know what? At the end of the day, I'll take it. Better restrained than not restrained.
Yeah.
Great.
You might have been bitten by the Roy Moore thing too, and then the guy that was on his side. This is now like 3 or 4 strikes in that you're endorsing a guy who turned out to be an absolute piece of garbage. So like, pull your punches.
Thank you for bringing up Roy Moore. It's actually very important to the conversation because the day prior to the hearing taking place, Trump went on this crazy, unhinged, hour-and-a-half-long press conference rant. And during that rant, he addressed Roy Moore. You know what he said? He's like, I wasn't a fan of Roy Moore. You know, I wasn't, but you know, so I think you might be right. I think he realized, this kind of hurt us. Maybe this wasn't a good way to go about it. He said he was a fan of Luther Strange.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We all saw you, dude. We all saw you with our own eyes. He's unreal. Okay, we got to take a break. By the way, so, you know, I always explain shop.tyt.com if you want the shirts. This one, that one's a reference to Chris Rock that John is wearing. But also, if you're watching this on YouTube at some point, okay, down below they got a new thing where you can just click on the shirts. That one is not available yet on YouTube. It's available at shop.tyt.com. But this one, click, boom, done, over, go. We'll be right back. We are on to something that is going to be amazing. But what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you, they work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you. That say no corporate back money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats. We're going to fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free health care for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single-payer health care, debt-free college, and we are going to get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're going to do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's going to stop with us. It's going to stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Justice Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money.
As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Absolutely not.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbossed.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We are just getting warmed up here. Vote for uncorrupted Democrats. The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you. All right, we're really excited about all the new members members that have joined us over the last 3 weeks, the activists and the insiders. And again, I got to remind you guys that we need this, of course, to be the home of progressives and a totally sustainable business. Your membership is essential to that. So we're trying to get to 100,000 members by the end of the year. We're on our way so far, but I appreciate all the comments that you guys have sent in. This one by Austin R. English really struck a chord with me, and I wanted you guys to hear it. So he wrote in, I decided to join the TYT network as a member today. I've been watching TYT for several years and took Cenk's advice to start supporting the news companies I believed in, as some were starting to suffer without their print edition profits. I first started watching TYT back when I was in college as a young conservative at a Christian university. TYT was like water to a seed planted by the professors I trusted. Learning how to genuinely listen to the views on the show that I didn't agree with brought me back to the origins/religious historicity debates I used to watch, now with a fresh mind, and I came out this time on the other side of the debates. I don't have to be thankful to supernatural beings anymore. I'm simply thankful to college professors and Cenk, Anna, John, and JR for having an impact on me that started and fueled a change for the better. And I'm thankful to friends and family who, after the change, continue to stay open to me out of the same genuine interest in truth amid the climate of alternate facts. P.S. The new website has a unique layout that feels very much like a personalized content home, so congratulations on successfully getting all the channels into that centralized hub format. Hey, thank you, Austin. That was an amazing note. Super appreciated. And thank you for helping us build the home of progressives. And I love that you're part of it now. So everybody else, tyt.com/join. Let's go build this thing together. All right, back on the Young Turks. Time to read member comments. Fort Costa Rica says, kudos TYT crew. How do you put up with a circus of news every day without losing it? I feel lucky looking in from the outside in Costa Rica and having my head explode. Thank you for all you do. I mean, that's the state we're in, right? I've been to Costa Rica. It's a lovely country. But people in Costa Rica are going, oof, thank God I don't live in America.
Who says we haven't
Costa
lost
Rica
it?
is the dream.
Yeah.
Do you know how people live there? Happily. Like, pura vida.
I've been on all the Xanax, by the way, this whole week. Just all the Xanax. Like my monthly prescription of Xanax. I'm done already. Like I need a refill right now. Like, just watching those hearings, I'm like, I need another one.
It was hard. It was hard to see some of that stuff and some of the reaction from Republican lawmakers.
Greylock writes in, I think a one-week investigation, quote-unquote, just allows limited cover for secure yes votes. Greylock, that is enormously possible. So we just discussed it in the last segment. So it's possible that the FBI will do a real investigation. They'll find out things that Kavanaugh doesn't want him to find out, and then he's done. Or it's possible that 1 week's not enough. They don't find anything, and then the Republicans go just because it wasn't long enough. Or, of course, it's possible they don't find anything because he didn't do it. But anyway, if it's the second scenario, the Republicans are like, no, we said a week. Like, aha, got you! Inconclusive. They would love inconclusive. That's obviously what they're shooting for, but we'll see what the FBI comes up with. Okay, last one from the members section. Monsoons and Rainbow says, asking again, does the Senate have that kind of power over the FBI? Once an investigation is underway, can the Senate legally limit the scope or time frame? No, remember, it's not the Senate. It's the White House that asked for the FBI investigation. That's why Flake was suggesting it, Murkowski and Collins backed it, but Trump had to order it. He can give them some framing, but, it's up to the FBI how they interpret that framing, okay? And then finally, in the tweets, Jessica, with a series of numbers, says, as a survivor of sexual assault, seeing the two women confront Flake, telling him their stories, demanding he look at them and commanding respect, I broke down in tears. Proud to be a woman, a survivor, and a TYT member. Thank you, Jessica. We appreciate it. That's the next story, and obviously tyt.com/join to become a member. We love your support and the stories that you guys have shared with us. It's important for us to know those and to be able to share that perspective with everyone.
Yeah. All right. Okay, well, why don't we talk about that? We will probably never know for sure what it is that changed Jeff Flake's mind about an FBI investigation this morning, assuming that he didn't intend fully since the day began to do an investigation. But we do know one event that happened that certainly seems like it might have had an effect on him, and that is when he was confronted by two survivors of sexual violence while he was getting in an elevator during today's proceedings. We're going to show you both of the videos. Be forewarned, what the women say is very real and raw, potentially triggering as well. Here's the first.
On Monday, I stood in front of your office with Annie Barkin. I told the story of my sexual assault. I told it because I recognized in Dr. Ford's story that she's telling the truth. What you are doing is allowing someone who actually violated a woman to sit in the Supreme Court. This is not tolerable. You have children in your family. Think about them. I have 2 children. I cannot imagine that if for the next 50 years they will have to have someone in the Supreme Court who has been accused of violating a young girl. What are you doing, sir?
Wow.
Super powerful.
Wow.
So we've had many debates on the show about whether you should yell at public figures in restaurants and chants and etc. No, that's perfect because he's a sitting United States senator about to make a momentous decision. She's in the building legally. She sees him. I mean, if you can't ask your senator to vote the right way when you're an American citizen, is it really a democracy? So that was amazing. And remember how sheltered they are. They're surrounded by their fellow politicians, keeping it real, wealthy cable news hosts, wealthy donors. It's people in power and privilege, ones that some of them might have similar experiences, but they're sheltered in a lot of ways, and a lot of them might not. To see a real American, a U.S. citizen say, this is what I lived through, and I cannot tolerate the idea of my daughters growing up in a country where a Supreme Court justice might have done this to someone else. I wish every senator could see that with their own eyes.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I was thinking that whole time about the privilege thing that you were talking about when Brett Kavanaugh was giving his testimony. Like, he grew up in this world of country clubs and, playing all these sports and coaching and stuff. And it's like, you're the 1%, and you don't know how most of the country is living. And so it is imperative to us to be like, yo, we're not dallying in the country club. Like, we're down here in the trenches, and the person that you appoint to this Supreme Court is going to impact me more than it's going to impact you, because you have enough money to get over whatever you need to get over.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And just to touch on the privilege part a little more, I'm curious if I think women overall are more sympathetic to the testimony from Dr. Blasey Ford, but I also wonder about privileged women in the country, because when she opened her testimony or her opening statement, one of the first things she said was, I spent that summer doing what we usually do, or doing what I usually do at the Columbia Country Club. There was something relatable about her for everyone, regardless of where you are, socioeconomic status-wise or, gender-wise. She was relatable, and I wonder if that helped because remember, after her testimony, all of a sudden you start hearing from the right wing, whether it's on cable news or from conservative lawmakers saying, yeah, she's very credible. And I'm wondering if that credibility comes from the fact that they can relate to her.
Maybe. Yeah, look, I have to be honest, I thought the same thing yesterday, but I didn't want to get into that yet because there was so much substance on the actual charges,
right,
etc. But when she said country club, I thought, I wonder if, and it's not just that. I mean, she is from their class, if you will, and I thought to myself, is that the difference between her and Anita Hill, where they didn't believe Anita Hill at all?
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of other factors. It was a slightly different time, et cetera, et cetera. But with Christine Blasey Ford, for whatever reason, even Orrin Hatch and Donald Trump, et cetera, looked at her and was like, oh, she's saying it. Okay. I don't know if we're overinterpreting, but certainly it occurred to us that's, and by the way, it's a normal human reaction. It's, if you can relate to someone for whatever reason, you feel like they're in your, in your culture, in your identity, etc., then you draw a connection with them. And this is what judges do all the time. It happened with Brock Turner. Oh, that's a good kid going to Stanford, right? And that could be my kid. Whereas if you're a poor kid, whether you're white or black, whether you're from a holler or from an inner city, a judge has a harder time relating to you and thinks, oh, that looks like a criminal, right? And so she looked like an upstanding citizen, like the ones that they are very, very used to seeing and talking to. So when she says it, they're like, whoa, wow, this thing might have really happened.
Yeah.
Can we show the second video just to front load that? And here's the other survivor of sexual violence, a similar sort of plea to him. And pay attention to his body language and the look on his face as this video goes on.
I was actually assaulted and nobody believes me. I didn't tell anyone, and you're telling all women that they don't matter, that they should just stay quiet, because if they tell you what happened to them, you're going to ignore them. That's what happened to me, and that's what you're telling all women in America, that they don't matter. They should just keep it to themselves, because if they have told the truth, you're just going to help that man to power anyway. That's what you're telling all of these women. That's what you're telling me right now. Look at me when I'm talking to you. You're telling me that my assault doesn't matter, that what happened to me doesn't matter, and that you're going to let people who do these things into power. That's what you're telling me when you vote for him. Don't look away from me. Look at me and tell me that it doesn't matter what happened to me.
Which is very similar to parts of Dr. Ford's testimony yesterday. It's just if you're a thinking person with any empathy or compassion in your body, it just drills right into the center of you. It just kills you.
Yeah.
And so again, I mean, these senators are not mostly humans. They're a set of directions given them by donors, but it is not impossible that those two experiences had some effect on him at the very least.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly had on us.
I mean, yesterday Brett Kavanaugh said something that I thought was actually made a lot of sense. Where he said, listen to the stuff that rings true. And if that doesn't ring true, nothing does. You know these two women, this happened to them, and they have had to deal with this, overcome the trauma. I mean, this rings so true. There's no person with a shred of humanity that could just dismiss these women and be like, whatever.
And one thing too, I understand there's lots of political considerations, and obviously the Republicans think that speed matters, and there's like a 1 in 3 chance right now that the Democrats will get control of the Senate and all that stuff. But realistically, here's the situation. There is nothing that is going to stop the Republicans from getting someone pretty extremely conservative into that seat. That ship sailed, during the last election. That Gorsuch is going to get on there. Someone is going to get on there. Jeff Flake knows some radical conservative is going to get on there. Maybe they'll pick someone else from the shortlist. Maybe it'll be the one woman that was on the shortlist next time. But they're going to have that seat because they have Donald Trump in the White House. And Flake knows that. So does it have to be Kavanaugh? Does he have to face the rest of his life having experiences like that while he's trying to get onto elevators? Many of the Republican senators, I think, would be perfectly fine with that. Lindsey Graham had righteous indignation, but over the other victim in the story, Kavanaugh, supposedly. But not all of them are going to feel that way. And it's possible that Jeff Flake is willing to let this one go, and then they'll just get some other freak next time.
This morning, after processing everything that happened yesterday, and this is before Flake made the suggestion to do the FBI investigation, I was kind of like stewing in all of this, and I was really angry, and I thought to myself, I better not make the mistake of bringing a daughter into this world, because I don't want to bring a girl into this world knowing that our lawmakers, the people in positions of power, wouldn't protect them if something happened to her. And so I just became angry because not only that, think about the young girls now that have been victimized who might feel like they can't come forward because why would I? Why would I come forward if I know I'm going to get smeared and the person that I'm accusing is still going to get the promotion, is still going to get all the praise, is still going to be protected? I mean, it just sends such a bad message. And again, I want to reiterate, we don't know without a shadow of a doubt if he's guilty or if he's innocent, which is why it's important to do this investigation. But more importantly, it sends a message that these senators do take these allegations seriously. If they had not done the investigation and they just, rushed through a floor vote and confirmed him, that would tell every female in this country right now, every rape victim or sexual assault victim, whether it's a male or female, you are not to believe, don't come forward, just shut your mouth and live with this in silence. But I'm glad that they're going to do the investigation.
Those two women are American heroes.
Yes.
And I have nothing to add to what they said.
They have more cojones than the entire Senate combined. Like, if you want to see what balls looks like, that's those two women. So strong.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to get into, as Warner Wolf used to say back in the day, no one will understand that reference, we're going to go to the videotape and see if Kavanaugh has some very clear lies. So we'll do that when we return. Look, we're doing interviews over there, and we've done some amazing ones recently. So now, of course, you know the person most widely considered to be the most progressive senator is Bernie Sanders. Why not back him during the 2016 primaries? Why be a Democrat at all? And we're in a time where you cannot, in good conscience, sit on the sidelines of history in 2017.
Consumer products sold under the Teflon brand are safe. DuPont did, in fact, ask EPA to make those statements, correct?
That's correct.
When I was pregnant with Bucky, I worked for DuPont around Teflon. They tried to blame me. They said it was something that I did. The more they would tell me that, the more suspicious I got.
You did see there was a substantial risk to the women at the DuPont plant.
There was no potential risk to the women. There was a potential risk to the fetus.
It's used in consumer products, manufacturing products. The applications were endless. These Teflon and Scotchgard chemicals permeated the living world. Today, every baby is born with Teflon chemicals in their blood.
DuPont and another company called 3M had been studying this chemical dating back to the 1950s and 1960s.
Did you work with a lot of other people that have been sick or died early? Carol Kaplan, Jim Broadwater, Joy Weaver, Steve Bailey, on the car. They're aware of the risk of the product.
Risk is relative.
If I go out here and sprinkle arsenic around, the risk everybody in this area is dealing with so much life. There was a discussion about what it even cost us. The devil.
The Republicans, they have a progressive vision. Those are the corporate Democrats.
Not freak out.
They did 100 squats a day for 3 days straight. How hard can that be? That's tough. Hard. But it's on for 30 days. Difference. How is your coming along with your squats? I did 100, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. You're pacing yourself. All right, back on the Young Turks. Colin from the member section writes in, we can live happily like they do in Costa Rica or Northern Europe, vote blue, and for progressives, then we can have nice things like universal health care, eliminate the student loan crisis, and strengthen the social safety net. Those are all things that other countries do, and they can afford it. But to be fair, they don't give as much tax cuts to the rich or start as many wars. So that's the trade-off. What are we going to do? Dr. Chaos MD says the people in D.C. are surrounded by people like Brett Kavanaugh. How many of those senators went to prep schools and did similar things or even less egregious things, but egregious nonetheless? They don't want to tank Kavanaugh because if it can happen to him, it could happen to any one of them that has similar skeletons in their respective closets. Excellent point. And then finally, this was a tough one, but we emphasize our members for a great number of reasons, so I want to read it to you. Med Kitty writes in, I watched the video of Jeff Flake's interaction with those survivors earlier today. I'm a survivor myself and felt the pain in those women's voices. The coldness with which these senators are able to listen to these stories is something I can't fathom. They truly have no idea what it's like to have every aspect of your life be affected by something someone else did to you. I was 5 years old when I was sexually assaulted. Wow. I think that if they ignore the credible evidence against Kavanaugh and they go forward anyway, there's going to be hell to pay, and there should be. So if they say to the rest of us, only the angry males get counted and no one else does, that's a hell of a statement to make to the country. So let's hope they don't. Let's hope that the outcome is different. Let's see how it turns out. Okay,
why don't we talk about some of that credible evidence? One area that is going to have to be part of this FBI investigation, I guess depending on its scope, which they say is going to be limited, is going to have to be a thing that came up as a result of Brett Kavanaugh submitting his summer 1982 calendar. This is what he submitted as a defense against claims that he assaulted Christine Blasey Ford. And he made a big deal out of, look at the things that I have here, the when we do parties and all of that, the event that she described in very specific detail in terms of where it happened, the people who were present there, could not have happened. But there was a problem with that. On July 1st, he had a description of an event in his own words that sounds exactly like what she described. And in it, he describes going to Timmy's for skis with Judge Tom, PJ, Bernie, and Squee. So let's just first acknowledge that when he says we can only party on weekends because we're doing other things during the week, he then admitted, no, this is a July 1st, a weekday party that totally is a party on a weekday. So that entire defense was not true at all. But there's a lot of other reasons to believe that this might be the event that Christine Blasey Ford was referencing. So one thing that's important is that she described during the hearing, she said that she ran into Mark Judge while he was working at a Safeway grocery store about 6 to 8 weeks after the gathering, where she says that she experienced the assault. And what's interesting there is that in one of his books, he references that he worked at a grocery store that would have put it in mid-August, I believe, which is 6 to 8 weeks after this July 1st event. So time-wise, it does seem to fit with what another one of the witnesses at the party actually referenced. In terms of the membership there, so Kavanaugh talking about who was present there, he was talking with the sex crimes prosecutor. He says Tim Gaudette, Mark Judge, Tom Kane, PJ Smith, Bernie McCarthy, Chris Garrett. She confirms that Chris Garrett is Squee, which she is. Thank you for that, because no one would have guessed that. Now, in her previously, she had been talking earlier in the day. She said there were 4 boys she remembers there: Brett Kavanaugh, Mark Judge, a boy named PJ, someone that she doesn't seem to know very well, but she remembers his name is PJ, and one other boy whose name I cannot remember. I also remember my friend Leland attending. Now, those people supposedly say they have no recollection of this event. They don't say it didn't happen, which is what Kavanaugh told you yesterday. They just have no recollection. And we are led to believe that she is remembering something that didn't actually happen. It seems pretty amazing and difficult to imagine that she is thinking of a sort of party that he has in his calendar that he went to, with the exact membership that he has in his calendar and went to, and that an attack took place 6 to 8 weeks before something that's also corroborated by another person who was present at that event. He goes on to say that he didn't even know her, and yet she knows, 36 years later, exactly who was going to his parties, a very small set of people that she's not familiar with. There's a lot of stuff there that doesn't make sense, but I will say one additional thing, and this is what we were talking about before came back for the show, that Mitchell fast forward all of her questions. Then Kavanaugh and Mitchell resume questions.
But at some point, they cut her off. She had her time, and suddenly Lindsey Graham was exploding, and she never came back out again. Do you want to know the thing that she was asking about during the last bit of her questioning? This July 1st party. July 1st party, her time ran out, Dick Durbin began speaking, they never went back to her again.
Yeah.
So and conveniently, that's when Lindsey Graham did the huge hysterics. And so everybody was distracted and all talking about Lindsey Graham, and nobody remembered to go back to the prosecutor. Now, the Republicans chose not to go back to the prosecutor. Remember, the prosecutor would normally ask the person who might have done it, that's more relevant questioning than the victim, and just as she got to the relevant part, Lindsey Graham's like, oh, I'm so mad! Oh my God! Oh, and conveniently they never went back to her.
I noticed that right away. It was a look over here, it's our shiny thing. That was the explosive, Lindsey Graham exploding. But I noticed because the prosecutor was asking questions of Brett Kavanaugh, and it was not going well for him. Just out the gate, even her first line of questioning where she was like, do you know that grinding up against someone, even without the intent of anything sexual is sexual assault? And he was like, yes. Like, it just was not looking good.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, she's a sex crimes prosecutor. So Republicans might have made a terrible mistake in deciding to choose her to carry out the line of questioning that they were too cowardly to carry out themselves, because she's going to ask the questions that she sees appropriate. And that's exactly what she did, which is why she failed to find any holes in Dr. Blasey Ford's story, and then could have, if she was allowed to, gotten to the heart of a very important date. That could have been the date where this alleged assault took place. But I just want to give you a follow-up regarding what Republicans had to say about how they just did away with her after Lindsey Graham lost his temper. So Senator Tom Tillis was asked about this later, and he said, we didn't expect that Mitchell was going to go the full range.
Range of time or question?
That doesn't make any sense. If you said, hey, look, she's just going to question Blasey Ford, I wouldn't agree with that strategy. I think that would be wrong, but at least it would make sense. But who thought, hey, you know what, this is what we'll plan. We'll have her question Blasey Ford entirely, and then get to Kavanaugh, and once she is through one or two senators, we'll just make her stop in the middle. That's not a plan you would have.
Exactly.
There's no way that's a plan they had. Yeah. They clearly changed the plan. You could say, hey, maybe they changed the plan for another reason. Lindsey was so upset, he just needed to go off, and then everybody forgot that they had the prosecutor who was supposed to ask their questions. Maybe, but you can't say they didn't change the plan. Yeah. So I want to be clear about a couple things. Mark Judge does deny that event happened, and he was at that party. Okay, now the FBI is going to talk to him. Leland, that's Dr. Blasey Ford's female friend, he kept saying, Kavanaugh kept saying, she says it didn't happen. He said, all four witnesses say it didn't happen. She never said that. She said she had not witnessed it, which is true. But and by the way, that's what Blasey Ford says too. She didn't say that Leland was in the room, right? But Leland says, I believe Blasey Ford.
That's right.
I believe Christine. So, I mean, look, you can say he miscommunicated. Another word for that is Kavanaugh lied over and over again through the testimony when he said that Leland says it didn't happen. She never said that. In fact, she backs Ford.
Can I just jump in really quickly about that? Because, during Cory Booker's line of questioning, he specifically mentioned that Leland had said, I believe her. And he did not respond to that. So Kavanaugh kept repeating that talking point about how, all the witnesses deny it, and
re-looking at a lot of that testimony, man, it is hard to come away not thinking that Kavanaugh is a liar. And so I thought his opening statement, we've got a lot of debate and discussion about that, but maybe because
as I talked about in the post game last night, when I get angry, it's usually because I mean it, right? And I'm being honest about my emotions and the things that I'm describing, and so maybe I overly empathize with that anger there, and I think it's wrong to assume that because he's angry, he's clearly lying. But overall, it's not dispositive either way, obviously. When you look at the rest of the testimony and the questioning, it becomes clearer and clearer that there was a lot of, at the bare minimum, inaccuracies, let alone lies. But, John, I want to give you credit because I didn't think about it the way that you said it in the beginning. Think about that, guys. She said, before she'd ever seen his calendar, of course she didn't see his calendar when she came forward in July. And when we didn't see the calendar, nobody saw the calendar until very, very recently, about 2 days ago, right? She said that PJ and Mark Judge and Kavanaugh were at the party. How would she barely knows him?
Yeah.
They knew each other a little bit in social circles. They both agree to that, right? How would she know that he went to a party with Mark Judge and PJ?
She doesn't even know who PJ is. She just says there was a boy named PJ that I remember, and it turns out he's got a friend who went by PJ at the time.
Think about it. No. He's lying. Think about it. How does she know? She told her therapist about this traumatic event. When she describes a traumatic event, she says Kavanaugh, Mark Judge, and PJ were there. Okay? How would she know those exact friends that went to a party in the summer of 1982 exactly like she described it without having any idea that they had gone to a party together except the one she was at and assaulted at?
And by the way, I keep first of all, in terms of the sex crimes prosecutor, on yesterday's edition of the Damage Report, I said, this is before Kavanaugh's testimony, I said, isn't it a perverse situation where they bring in a sex crimes prosecutor to destroy the victim, but if she ever gets close to hurting the guy who's accused, they are like contractually obligated to pull her mic. And then they did it. They actually pulled her mic.
Yeah, you said it ahead of time. You said it ahead of time, and that's exactly what they did.
But I didn't even realize at the time that's what was happening because of the hand that was waving. I got distracted by Lindsey Graham too. But again, everybody says, well, you can just accuse a person. You can just say something. You can't prove it. It's he said, she said. Okay, but what did she say? Two big problems for Kavanaugh. One, if you're going to accuse someone of sexually assaulting you, you don't put another person in the room while it's happening. You don't name another person and say that they were there. Mark Judge, she named him. That is a really weird strategy if you're going to try to make up out of whole cloth that someone raped you or tried to rape you.
Why would you put Leo in the room, your friend? Why would you put his friend? They're still friends together in the room, full well knowing that he's going to back his friend.
Yeah.
It makes no sense if you were making it up.
Exactly.
It makes perfect sense if that's actually what happened.
And then on the other side, with this party, like if you're going to describe a social event, to have all of this confirming information come out that you could never have had access to, not only because we didn't have access to the calendar until a couple of days ago, but because who would have a calendar from 1982? It just happened that he has confirmed so much of what she said. And if you just find out, somebody says, here are details of a crime that happened to me, and you say, well, we don't really know, and then so many things get confirmed in ways that you never could have predicted they actually would, that has got to lead you to believe that she is actually right. And now the FBI is looking into it, and here's the thing. Some of this is confirmable. Supposedly, Mark Judge's grandmother has a house that matches this floor plan in this area. They can go. They can find out, and talk to people in the area. They can check to see if the floor plan does actually exactly match and all that in the way that she said. This looks so terrible. No. To continue to defend him, just be honest. You don't care.
I don't know if they're going to get him, but he did it. No, I'm now absolutely convinced. Because I always think about what if it was like the shoes on the other foot, and how would someone I barely know, I know a little bit, know how I went to a party with specific friends of mine in that summer? How would they know that? How would, let's pick names of friends of mine, Steve, Dave, and Jack. You went to a party with Steve and Dave and Jack. How the hell would you know that, right? And how would you know to make that up? And that you would be so certain, what if you get caught? What if I never went to a party with Jack that summer, right? But then you make that up and you put it in, nobody would make that up.
Yeah.
No. She's telling the truth, and he's lying.
She's too credible. The way that she was describing the events, even when she was asked about this PJ boy, like I guess she had written somewhere previously, like PJ was a bystander, and she was like, no, I actually want to retract that. He seemed like a very nice boy, and he wasn't in the room. Like it was like she's fingering the two people that were there, and this other guy seemed like a really nice guy. I don't really want to get involved in that. Like, come on,
Mark Judge wrote a book using the name O'Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
What the hell kind of name is O'Kavanaugh?
Yeah.
Really? Come on, guys.
And it was Bart O'Kavanaugh. His name is Brett Kavanaugh.
Come on.
Okay, and so
Those aren't even close.
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And so
starts with a B. Starts with a B.
Guys, PJ, it's over. It's over. She said PJ. PJ's in the calendar.
Yep.
You can't possibly make up PJ and get it right. He did it. He did it. It's only a matter of whether they catch him.
I think what's more telling about that he did it is that he does not want an FBI investigation. Every time he was asked, he was like, what's the FBI going to do? They're going to pull out the 302s, which I don't even know what that means. He's like, they just give the 302s. Like, what are you even talking about? If I was accused of something heinous and I was innocent, I'd be like, bring the FBI, bring the county sheriff's office, bring everybody up in here. Let's all uncover every single rock, because guess what? I am innocent AF.
Yeah.
Not happening.
We gotta go.
Okay, let's do it.
So, look, we got a lot more on his lying. We actually have more evidence that shows you that he's not being truthful throughout the testimony. We'll get to that when we return. And when we come back, if you think we're in a rage, hear from... Rage Against the Machine. And Prophets of Rage, and he's going to be in the next Power Panel. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
And thank you, John. Appreciate it. And all right, everybody check out Go Fact Yourself. Okay.
And buy one of these T-shirts because they're Asian.
and
I like that.
It is from Asian Design. That's right. ShopTYT.com. All right, guys, we'll be right back. We are on to something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors. They serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you. They work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you. That say no corporate back money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats. We're going to fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free health care for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single-payer health care, debt-free college, and we are going to get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're going to do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's going to stop with us. It's going to stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Justice Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money. As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Not a betting.
Absolutely.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbought.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We're just getting warmed up here. Vote for uncorrupted Democrats. The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you. All right, we're really excited about all the new members that have joined us over the last 3 weeks, the activists and the insiders. And again, I got to remind you guys that we need this, of course, to be the home of progressives and a totally sustainable business. Your membership is essential to that. So we're trying to get to 100,000 members by the end of the year. We're on our way so far, but I appreciate all the that you guys have sent in. This one by Austin R. English really struck a chord with me, and I wanted you guys to hear it. So he wrote in, I decided to join the TYT network as a member today. I've been watching TYT for several years and took Cenk's advice to start supporting the news companies I believed in, as some were starting to suffer without their print edition profits. I first started watching TYT back when I was in college as a young conservative at a Christian university. TYT was like water to a seed planted by the professors I trusted. Learning how to genuinely listen to the views on the show that I didn't agree with brought me back to the origins/religious historicity debates I used to watch. Now with a fresh mind, and I came out this time on the other side of the debates. I don't have to be thankful to supernatural beings anymore. I'm simply thankful to college professors and Cenk, Anna, John, and JR for having an impact on me that started and fueled a change for the better. And I'm thankful to friends and family who, after the change, continue to stay open to me out of the same genuine interest in truth amid the climate of alternate facts. P.S. The new website has a unique layout that feels very much like a personalized content home, so congratulations on successfully getting all the channels into that centralized hub format. Hey, thank you, Austin. That was an amazing note. Super appreciated. And thank you for helping us build the home of progressives. And I love that you're part of it now. So everybody else, tyt.com/join. Let's go build this thing together. Drop it. Joining us, Ben. Was Tom Morello, everybody. Wow. Okay, but he's only been in Rage Against the Machine, Audio Slave, Prophets of Rage, and several others. Oh, but a stint with Bruce Springsteen. Let's not forget. Yes,
greatest rock and roll evening of not my life, but America's life. 2008 in Anaheim. We were just talking about it. It was unbelievable. It was the finest and really the best 12 minutes, more or less, right? Something like that. Yeah, 9, 12 minutes that I've ever experienced.
Yeah, and once Washington, Jefferson, and Hamilton rocked out, but not quite as hard as they rocked out that night.
Not as hard.
Yeah, and I have the...
And I wasn't on the floor for that show, so...
well, then there's that. I have the Ghost of Tom Joad that you and Bruce did together on my iTunes, and that's because this guy sent it to me.
Sure.
Okay.
It was a magical moment there.
Yeah. It was great. It's a great thing. Now you got the Atlas Underground coming out?
Yeah, it's a record that's a sonic conspiracy, where I've tried to
boldly create a new genre of music that combines my Marshall stack firepower that I'm known for and huge EDM drops with a
I like that.
with a cast of collaborators from Marcus Mumford to Wu-Tang Clan, Portugal the Man, Big Boy, Killer Mike, Bass Nectar, Knife Party. It's a Gary Clark Jr. So it's these collaborative. It's people of different genres, ethnicities, ages, and genders come together to make a statement during this troubled time.
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay, so now time for how dorky I am. So I of course, I know a lot of these guys, Killer Mike, mainly because he supports Bernie Sanders, and I understand that Wu-Tang is ain't nothing to mess with. Let's put it that way. But as I'm reading it, I'm like, is it Marcus Mumford, Portugal? Is that the? And is it the man is something else? Right? Because they're all together.
Well, there might be a little learning curve, but it's Marcus Mumford of Mumford & Sons and Portugal the Man, both of whom are talented hit makers.
Yes.
Also collaborated with Johnny Cash.
Yeah, earlier, right? And the Night Watchman. Yeah, so I mean, we can go on all day long. But the first one drops, Rabbit's Revenge. That just started.
There's it's been out for a little bit. Rabbit's Revenge, a song with Bass Nectar, Killer Mike, and Big Boy. But the thematic thread of this record is social justice ghost stories, and the idea is that the heroes and martyrs of the past can speak through these songs to the struggles of the present and hopefully light a beacon towards a more just and humane future.
Wow, that's amazing, because I just did a speech for Wolfpack where I talked about the ghosts of people who fought for justice in the past, and I said, picture them in the room. I borrowed it partly from Nina Turner, who has a great speech that's similar to that. So,
I brought up Johnny Cash not randomly, but because when some conservative fans reacted to Willie Nelson going to the Beto O'Rourke event, I thought, well, Johnny Cash would already have been there, right? And that's not an incorrect assessment of where Johnny Cash is set to. Well, when people say shut up and play guitar, or they're opposed to the fact that cultural figures speak out of politics, it's only because they disagree with your politics.
Exactly.
I mean, it's exclusively.
So one of my favorite examples of that was when, and this is before the whole Kanye thing, there were celebrities coming out and they were saying things that were critical of Trump. And Candace Owens put a video out there where she's like, no one cares what you think, you're just celebrities. And then Kanye West comes out and says that he likes what Candace Owens has to say. She's like, oh my God.
Now she cares.
Love Kanye. Yeah, so.
I love the idea of shut up and do things that are artistic that have a message. What does that mean? Shut up and write poems, Emily Dickinson.
I think it causes a kind of like cognitive dissonance, because you like the rock and roll, you want to be in the mosh pit to enjoy it, but you just can't stand the fact that they stand for something that you're opposed to. I look at it. I think it's very simple. When you pick up a guitar, you do not put down your First Amendment rights.
I love it. Yeah.
The whole point of it is the message. I mean, it makes no sense.
I mean, for example, like, if you've been following, I've been doing this for more than 2 decades, and it hasn't exactly. The message isn't always so subtle. So if you don't know, if your guitar says "arm the homeless," just to be clear, who we're talking to, we have on the panel.
Tom says, and I saw it in one of the things here. He's like, "We're not violent, but our music is." All right, now on to serious stuff about Kavanaugh hearings. Okay, here we go, Anna.
Following the hearing involving Dr. Blasey Ford and Brett Kavanaugh, we now have time to reflect on some of Kavanaugh's answers, and it appears that he was either misleading or just flat out lying in some of the answers that he gave. Now, we have a number of examples, a number of videos, so I want to get through these videos as quickly as possible so we can have a conversation about them. But with that said, let's give you the first example.
Let's look at Beach Week Ralph Club biggest contributor. What does the word Ralph mean in that?
That probably refers to throwing up. I'm known to have a weak stomach, and I always have. This is well known. Anyone who's known me, like a lot of these people behind me, known me my whole life, know, I got a weak stomach, whether it's with beer or with spicy food or anything.
So the vomiting that you reference in the Ralph Club reference related to the consumption of alcohol.
Sarah, I was the top of my class academically, busted my butt in school.
Have you, I don't know if it's buffed or boofed, how do you pronounce that?
That refers to flatulence. We were 16.
Okay.
And we want to talk about flatulence at age 16 on a yearbook page. I'm game.
I did not find him credible. I don't believe boof is flatulence. I don't believe the Devil's Triangle is a drinking game. And I don't believe calling yourself a girl's alumnus is being her friend.
Yeah, I think that this is relevant. I mean, we're having this weird conversation in this country where we're looking at somebody's yearbook from so long ago, etc. And I get it. Like, braggadocio from your yearbook page is not something that should keep you from the Supreme Court. But we're looking at his credibility, and I don't mind him lying back then or doing stupid things, not sexual assault, but the over drinking, etc. Who cares about that, right? But why is he lying about it now? The boof thing, apparently, I didn't know this. I had to look it up. I guess I'm a dork, whatever, right? It is not referred to flatulence. It is a reference to anal sex. So these are all uncomfortable terms and uncomfortable things to discuss, but that's what we're in. And by the way, Kavanaugh asked horribly inappropriate questions of Bill Clinton himself, so he has no ground to stand on there. So why would you, why don't you just say what it is and go, we were goofy teenagers talking about anal sex. I mean, bringing that up is terrible, but Devil's Triangle, very relevant, because that is not a drinking game. That is 2-on-1, 2 guys on 1 girl. Now, everybody knows that. Now, you're lying about it right now. You're not lying about it when you were 16 or 17. You're lying about it right now. And so that makes me wonder, why are you lying about it?
For me, I think the bigger picture is, are we okay with our country being run and presided over by judges who are sexual predators? Or should that not be okay?
I'm certainly not okay with it.
Yeah, and I think it's really, women are going to have to save this country. And it's been run long enough by sexual predators, and it's time to put an end to it. And if you're a woman, you're out there, please run for office, please become a judge, please become the head of a revolutionary cadre, whatever you've got to do to turn this around. Women should be in the lead from now on.
Right, and it's what that position represents. It's the highest level of our justice system, right? These are the people who interpret and enforce our Constitution. And do we trust someone who could potentially be, an alleged attempted rapist to carry out that job? And by the way, again, we don't know, which is why this FBI investigation is so incredibly important. However, if you take those allegations out of it and just focus on the number of lies that were told during that hearing, that's problematic. I mean, he is testifying under oath. This is serious.
We know why he lied about Devil's Triangle, because it's the same accusation that Dr. Ford levied. It's not that, it's not exactly the same thing, but he didn't want that suggestion.
To the devil's ballpark.
Right, that's right. God bless you. It's in the devil's ballpark, yeah.
Yeah, but look at all the lies. Ralphie, dude, you're Ralph because of the beer. Everybody knows that. Not because of spicy food. Everybody knows
Nobody puts their reaction to spicy food and a weak stomach on their yearbook page. I put a lot of dumb stuff on my yearbook page, but not that.
Yeah. No.
Sometimes when I drink too much coffee after 3 o'clock, I pee quite a bit. It's going on my yearbook page.
I know.
Yeah. I know, but I just got to say about the Ralphie thing. Look, if you were human and credible and not lying, what you would say is, yeah, Ralph, we went and we drank too much beer and I threw up. That doesn't mean I did a sexual assault, but I drank too much beer. It's not that hard. His go-to move is the lie. He can't help himself. At every turn, it's one lie after another.
You could even combine the lie with part of the truth in that, the thing of it is, my friends, they could all drink 8 or 9 beers, and I drank 3 or 4, and I threw up. So that's why that's in there.
That's right. We're like,
everybody believes that. Right.
His gut instinct is the lie, and he's done it almost at every turn.
The reference to Renata was another lie, so let's take a look at that exchange.
You mentioned, I think, the Renata, I don't know how you pronounce that. That's the proper name of an individual,
Renata.
It's spelled with an E at the end, R-E-N-A-T-E. Is that correct? Okay. And then after that is the word alumnius. What does the word alumnius mean in that context?
I explained that in my opening statement. She was a great friend of ours. A bunch of us went to dances with her. She hung out with us as a group. The media circus that has been generated by this thought it reported that it referred to sex. It did not. Never had any, as she herself said on the record, any kind of sexual interaction with her. And I'm sorry how that's been misinterpreted, and sorry about that, as I explained in my opening statement, because she's a good person, and to have her name dragged through this hearing is a joke and really an embarrassment.
So that one was so important that after the show was over yesterday, we had to go and do it in the post game for the members because I wanted to clarify. Because when he got emotional about Renata in his opening statement, I gave him credit yesterday on the show and said it seemed like he was really regretful that they had done the Renata alumnius thing. Because that's 14 guys, a lot of them football players talking about the same girl. We all know what that means, right? And it doesn't mean that they thought, this is the one girl we really respect.
And just to be
Come on. No one believes that. But it seemed like in the opening statement, like he was regretful about that. But when in the follow-up questions to Sheldon Whitehouse, and when we showed you the postgame and what you just saw right there, he continues to lie and pretend, oh, no, as football players, we wrote that because we just liked her so much. No. Everyone who's ever gone to high school in America knows you put that in there because you guys claimed you hooked up with her. And so I can stomach you being regretful. We said it because we hooked up with her, and I feel so terrible about that. We should have never done that. We were stupid 17-year-olds. God damn it, why did we do that, right? That I can live with. You're saying, no, it wasn't about sex. It was because we really liked her. Oh, get the hell out of here. That's an obvious lie.
A lot of us took her to dances. And again, just to be clear, it doesn't prove anything happened in high school. It merely claims that they all decided to claim that they had.
Exactly. And so Renata was one of the individuals who supported him when all these allegations came out and essentially said that she could stand by his character and that he's a good person. And then once this whole Renata yearbook reference came up and she was notified about it, she was really hurt. She's like, I can't believe that they would do such a thing. It's so hurtful. And so I do believe that he's regretful or remorseful. I do think that he was genuine about that in his opening statement, but I also believe that he's lying about what that reference really meant.
No one. I don't care if you're MAGA. I don't care if you're Trump's uncle. You know that's referencing hooking up and not how much they respected her. You know it. You know that's a lie.
And then what bothered me was in the White House questioning, and of course a closer examination of really important work that Sheldon Whitehouse did, was his notion that because she claimed nothing had happened between them, that somehow she had exonerated him. And that then he was able to, in his mind, take this moral high ground and sit back in his chair like, I can't believe you're bringing her up. She said nothing happened. Obviously, that bothered me enormously.
Yes. So we're judging people's credibility here. We're judging, it's an unfortunate situation, but we're judging Christine Blasey Ford's credibility, and we're judging Kavanaugh's credibility. All the Republicans now, I don't know if it's all, but almost all of them have now even gone on the record and say, yeah, she was credible. Even Trump today said she was credible. So, they hired a prosecutor to break down her credibility, and she didn't do it. The minute the prosecutor started to break down Kavanaugh's credibility by pointing out the calendar July 1st date where the party seems to have happened, they're like, she's done. Lindsey Graham yelled at somebody, right? So now we're showing you how many different lies. If we're judging credibility, one person seems immaculate, the other person seems like a great number of occasions where his natural instinct is to lie.
So let's go to his exchange with Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, because this has to do with the polygraph test. He refused to take a polygraph test, whereas Dr. Blasey Ford did. Now, before we get into this debate about the credibility of polygraph tests, I want you to just quickly watch this exchange, and then I'll fill in the blanks for you.
Judge Kavanaugh, have you taken a professionally administered polygraph test as it relates to this issue?
No, I'll do whatever the committee wants. Of course, those are not admissible in federal court, but I'll do whatever the committee wants. They're not admissible in federal court because they're not reliable, as you know.
So you've not taken one.
Right.
Okay, so he was not having a polygraph test. Okay, he's like, they're not reliable. Now, let me quote you Brett Kavanaugh in a decision he made as a judge. As the government knows, law enforcement agencies use polygraphs to test the credibility of witnesses and criminal defendants. Those agencies also use polygraphs to screen applicants for security clearances so that they may be deemed suitable for work in critical law enforcement, defense, and intelligence collection roles. And he went on to say, the government has satisfactorily explained how polygraph examinations serve law enforcement purposes. So he's clearly on the record in a decision saying polygraphs are reliable enough for the government to use them, especially when screening someone for work, which is exactly what they're doing with Kavanaugh. Now, he's like, polygraph, that's totally unreliable. I don't know. Who looks guilty? Who looks guilty? It's super obvious.
So I would draw a direct comparison here between a polygraph test and hearsay evidence, which is not admissible in a court of law, but which every law enforcement agency uses when they gather the information. Tom said that he killed that guy. Well, you can't call me in court necessarily maybe to say that, but they're going to call Tom and they're going to investigate it, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the next exchange is with Cory Booker, and just pay close attention to what Kavanaugh says about one of Dr. Blasey Ford's friends.
All the witnesses who were there say it didn't happen. Miss Kaiser is her longtime friend, said she never saw me at a party with or without Dr.
And Miss Kaiser has said clearly, and I'll quote what she said. She said she does not remember that. I didn't question that supports what she said. But she also says that she believes Dr. Ford.
So that was referenced in a Washington Post story. So she absolutely did say that she believes Dr. Ford, and she also said that she had no recollection, as Cory Booker perfectly laid out there. And it didn't matter because Brett Kavanaugh kept repeating that lie over and over again throughout the hearing, which was ridiculous, right? To make it seem as though everyone disagrees with what Dr. Blasey Ford says, everyone's siding with me. And that's not the case.
The distinction being, they didn't say that it didn't happen. No one said, oh, I remember that party. That's crazy. I was with Brett the entire time. That never happened. Or I was with Christine that entire time, and it never happened. What they said is, I don't get the night you're talking about. It's a different thing. So although it's great that Cory Booker asked that, I thought, again, as every Democratic senator missed, I thought they missed the main point. You keep saying these witnesses exonerate you, and while they don't help her argument, they really serve no purpose whatsoever as to whether the event took place.
But the thing he's saying about her friend is specifically wrong, and purposely wrong, and repeatedly wrong. And if you want to say, hey, I get it, he's lying about Devil's Triangle and Ralphing, etc., but it's not important. One, I think it is important because of the credibility issue. But this is clearly important about one of the witnesses. And that witness says, I believe Ford. And he keeps saying in his own testimony, oh, she exonerated me. She said that it didn't happen. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. Why are you? And you're going to go on the Supreme Court, and that at a bare minimum, let's say that he's super mistaken about what she said. You're going to make those kind of mistakes on the Supreme Court? So
he's lying. It's not a big deal. Is perjury not a big deal anymore?
Yeah, and what's the forest for the trees here? Like, what he lies about all this stuff. Say it out loud. Why is he lying? Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity, and where you can reach the highest office of the land. Having done this stuff, you just put it under the rug because you're going to be supported. That's the thing, is he's being supported by Trump and by the system that put it forward.
And the final irony is, one of the ways that Kavanaugh got famous was by serving on Ken Starr's investigation of Bill Clinton. And he was, according to all the people involved, the most fervent advocate of going the most aggressive against Bill Clinton. Why was he so mad at Bill Clinton? He said it was an outrage that he lied about sex under oath. Right. That's exactly what Kavanaugh just did.
And the House of Representatives impeached Bill Clinton for lying under oath about sex. The Senate did not convict him. But I think it's fair to say that if the American people had known that Bill Clinton had lied under oath prior to the campaign, we would not have given him the job.
This one we do know.
Maybe it wasn't enough to take the job away from him, and it seemed political. But I think we would have denied him that job, and I think in the same token, if the people had a choice here, they would pretty clearly deny Brett Kavanaugh this job.
All right. There are more examples, but those were some of the more glaring ones that we wanted to share with you guys. We got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're actually going to go back in time and discuss some of the insanely graphic questions that Kavanaugh demanded to ask Bill Clinton during that investigation. So
record-shattering hypocrisy when we return.
I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Hassan D. Piker and on Twitter at Hassan the Hun. And this has been The Breakdown. Was that good, guys? Okay. Not enough hashtag use. Hashtag abs, hashtag model, hashtag woke bae.
Hashtag one black friend.
I'm thinking more rings.
I got them here.
You need more accessories. Way more accessories.
I don't know where to put them.
Come on, throw these on. Woke bae, not sleep bae. More sexy, too. When's the last time you posted on Instagram? Too long. Come on, man. No, you need to post at least once an hour. What's the outfit of the day today? Is this what you're going with? No. We need more accessories. We need This doesn't have anything to do. It doesn't. For your gay audience, man. Yeah, the gays love you, man. Okay. What else? What else do I need to do? You haven't appropriated a culture in a week. We have like a kimono or something. Damn, that looks good on you, dude. Perfect. How many rings you got on? Do you have any more? I got 3. Yeah. Can we get more rings on this? And when you're done, kiss the ring. Look at the camera. Kiss the ring. Maybe like a little wink. Islam's role in terrorism and all the Huffington Post articles weren't doing well. How is it? How many likes did our last outfit of the day picture have? Only like 100,000. So I think that's where your focus needs to be. I hear you on all the blah, blah, blah social issues. We need to focus on followers. Kids in Yemen, we don't care if you sleep at night. Dab, dab. Okay, dab. There you go. More. Talk about yourself more. I'm Hassan Piker. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. Yeah, be more into it. Instagram. This is important for me. Americans losing access to healthcare coverage. I hear you. Attack Tommy more. I've done it. So many. She shoots out of her living room now. It's like punching down now. We're okay with that. It helps the brand. We made you. We got you verified. You're nothing without us. So I don't know what else I need to do here. Just take off that shirt. That's exactly why Tommy Lauren is stupid. I hate you. I'm Hassan Piker. Follow me on Instagram. Hashtag woke bay. Please follow me.
Alright, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping!
An amazing power panel.
Look at this battle! We're talking about power!
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong. We start a revolution! Yes, another one! Aren't you excited? Wow! Some of the best writers in the country are right here on this panel, with the obvious exception of John Irola.
Let's not so quickly discount Harry Potter fanfiction.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
You know, I can't get over the fact that Donald Trump already has lower numbers than George Bush did after Katrina.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care.
Their legislation is always accompanied by some kind of moral judgment, right? This idea that poverty is a choice.
What ran me away from Christianity was judgment and condemnation.
Assaulting peaceful protesters in North Dakota, crazier than bombing Yemen, crazier than bombing Syria so much they ran out of bombs. You mean crazier than funding ISIS and trying to knock off Assad at the same time?
Amazing footage came out today of a 5-year-old child being miraculously pulled from rubble in Aleppo. A miracle and a reminder of the horror of that conflict is still present every single day.
My name is Sophie Tsai, and I'm a video editor and producer at TYT. I edit Facebook originals, Aggressive Progressives, but I also work on Main Show. I produce the Happy Half Hour. I think my happiest moment is spending time with my coworkers outside of work, hanging out with them and getting to know what they like to do or what movies they like to watch and what hobbies they have. My hobby is playing with my dog and going out to eat. I think that's my favorite thing to do on the weekends.
Alright, back on the Young Turks. Let me read a bunch of comments, and then we got another doozy for you guys. Artificial Morphisman writes in on YouTube Super Chat. I saw Rage Against the Machine in like 1991 at the third Lollapalooza in Minneapolis and Soundgarden 3 times. I was and am a grunge rocker. I'm a member at TYT. Thank you guys for leading the progressive movement in these dark times. Well, thank you on behalf of all of us for watching him and us.
Messages in the mosh pit.
I like that. Lefty Green 75 writes in on Twitter, I agree with Tom Morello on women needing to take over, although I wouldn't object to a President Morello.
Okay, you heard it here first.
Well, you know,
this is my exploratory committee.
We're exploring right now. Actually, Tom and I have done a couple of interviews together, and we talked about how you're actually very similar to Barack Obama in some ways.
There are some similarities. We both have a Kenyan father and a white American mother. We're both from Chicago. We attended Harvard at the same time. He was in law school when I was an undergrad, and we've both been on the cover of Rolling Stone.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I've committed fewer war crimes.
Oh, damn! He just dropped that. Okay,
right, but not none.
Yeah. Sonic war crimes.
Oh yeah. So, but the funny thing is, as you were talking, I was like, you know what? Your voice even sounds like him a little bit.
That's where the Kenyan sort of Irish-Italian overlap occurs.
Yeah, and in Chicago maybe.
Yeah, there's some of that in there too.
Yeah. Wow. That's it. Until you said the war crimes thing, and then I was like, no, he doesn't sound like him in that sense. Okay, so last two ones are members. Recyclops's Boofing and Devil's Triangle are now part of the congressional record. Okay,
Only in Trump's administration.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's look at the bright side.
That's right. And Chris writes, and I love the irony of him attempting to use the calendar to feign his innocence, only to have it possibly become the object that identifies the date of the sexual assault and corroborates her account. So, if it concludes that way, that would indeed be quite ironic. Thank you, members. TYT.com/join to become a member and get any of these shows and all of the Kavanaugh hearings that we covered yesterday. You can go back as a member and watch all of that for yourself, testimony that we showed you in parts here. Okay, and then I want to tell you that we're going to Politicon October 20th and 21st at the LA Convention Center. I will be there. Hassan Piker and Anna Kasparian will be there. Hassan will be debating Charlie Kirk. There'll be others from the Young Turks Network as well. Kyle Kalinske will be debating Ann Coulter. And I will be debating Tucker Carlson. So go to Politicon.com and use the code TYT so that we can track you guys.
The right wingers, you guys should all go. They love a debate. All they do is ask to debate. They got 3 debates happening right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you like debates, me versus Tucker Carlson, that ought to be interesting.
I just want to be clear about something, though. I will not be debating. It's not because I don't want to debate. It's because no one has agreed to debate me, including Dave Rubin, who likes to discuss ideas. Big ideas.
He's surrounded by ideas. Big ideas. Anyways, okay. Well, after what Anna did to Ann Coulter, I don't blame them for running. Okay. So, Kavanaugh hearings happened yesterday, of course, as you all know, and he was outraged that people were asking questions about his sex life. Absolutely outraged. And then in the beginning of his statement, his opening statement, he said something that I found to be a little curious. Now, he went on a partisan attack, which you're not supposed to do as a person going on the Supreme Court.
Democrats 11 times.
That's right. Mentioned Democrats 11 times. Talked about how they were attacking Trump, etc. But that's not what I'm talking about. It's how he phrased this one thing. Let's watch it.
This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump and the 2016 election, fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside left-wing opposition groups. This is a circus. The consequences will extend long past my nomination. The consequences will be with us for decades.
The part that I noted as a little off, not a big deal, but a little off, was revenge on behalf of the Clintons. Not just Hillary Clinton, but the Clintons. And I thought, okay, I mean, that could be nothing. But then I remembered, oh, right, Kavanaugh investigated Bill Clinton. So it's not just the election he's talking about. He was part of Ken Starr's team that investigated Bill Clinton's sex life. So now here he is saying that it is outrageous that they are investigating his sex life. Now let me quote Brett Kavanaugh about Bill Clinton during the Ken Starr investigations. He said that Clinton lied to his aides, lied to the American people, and disgraced the office. So he apparently thinks lying about sex is very, very important. He said he strongly opposed giving the president any break in the questioning regarding the details of the Lewinsky relationship. So now, I can't believe you're asking about the details of my sexual relationships. Okay? Not anywhere near done. Okay? So, he then posed a series of questions to Bill Clinton. And perhaps this is why he thinks the Clintons would like revenge against him. Now, I don't think that that's the case at all, but that's his frame of mind. Now, this is the guy saying outrageous that you would ask me detailed questions about my sex life. These are the questions that he proposed to Bill Clinton about Monica Lewinsky. And by the way, earmuff to kids.
I was going to say younger viewers may want to turn away, right?
Yeah, no joke. You think I'm playing? I'm not. Okay, this is really raw. So Brett Kavanaugh wanted to ask Clinton these questions. If Monica Lewinsky says that you ejaculated in her mouth on 2 occasions in the Oval Office area, would she be lying? He continues, if Monica Lewinsky says that you inserted a cigar into her vagina while you were in the Oval Office area, would she be lying? This is the man who says, it is outrageous that you would ask a political public figure about their sex life. Let me keep going. If Monica Lewinsky says that on several occasions in the Oval Office area you use your fingers to stimulate her vagina and bring her to orgasm, would she be lying? These are all specifically questions Brett Kavanaugh insisted on asking President Bill Clinton. Last one. If Monica Lewinsky says that you masturbated into a trash can in your secretary's office, would she be lying? Now, to explain why he wanted to ask those questions, he said, the function of the independent counsel is to make, quote, Clinton's pattern of revolting behavior clear. Pattern of revolting behavior. We should deeply investigate that, including those incredibly graphic questions. And he concluded by saying the idea of going easy on him at the questioning is thus abhorrent to me. Well, I guess that's your standard, Brett Kavanaugh. So this would be a little late in the game to complain.
Yeah, those are some. That's some. You know how I feel about hypocrisy, right? If you're not a little hypocritical, you're not interesting, right?
Well, he has quite a vocabulary for someone who was a virgin as long as he was.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But this is a degree of hypocrisy that rises to any level. But that is stunning. And yeah, of course. So he cannot, in good conscience, he can't be noble and claim that he can't be asked those types of questions.
So the Republican Party, who did that to Bill Clinton, and you can say, hey, he did it himself, he had this affair, etc. But now Lindsey Graham turns around full of rage and like, how could you do this to a good man? To probe into his sex life when you didn't have to, okay, and to see what he did or did not do. Even the idea of questioning him seems outrageous to them, and he kept saying, you've destroyed me and my family. You want to ask Clinton these questions. You didn't have to. Remember, the original investigation was not about sex with Clinton. It was about a real estate deal in Arkansas. No, Kavanaugh and Starr chose to go into gratuitous detail about Bill Clinton's sex life. And now he comes and yells at us and scrunches up his nose and says, how dare you investigate a man's sex life like this? That's literally what you did for a living.
I'd like to, one other thing he said, in addition to the Clinton line that got me, because it goes to the degree to which he politicized this. And of course, I mean, look, man, the appointment of a Supreme Court justice is a political action, and the Senate is a bunch of politicians voting on it. It is political theater always. This was perhaps more than we were used to, but the Kavanaugh and the right's politicization of this was, I know I didn't say that right, was dramatic, right? And he said, in addition to that, right after or right before saying, to make up for revenge on the part of the Clintons, he talked about outside left-wing groups,
right?
Which is the exact kind of thing you say when you're running for the Senate in Wisconsin and money comes in from New York and LA, right? But this is the United States. There are no outside left-wing groups unless those left-wing groups were Cuban, right? But presumably that was American money spent by Americans to try to convince their representatives to defeat you. You want money out of politics? Fine. But when money is in politics, then left-wing groups get to weigh in from all parts of the country because this judge is going to be a justice. When somebody on this panel dies, he will probably still be a justice on the Supreme Court.
If he's upset about money coming in and influencing things, let's talk about all the corporate donors that are persuading these Republican lawmakers to push forward with his confirmation. Let's talk about that money. I'm very curious to see how much money has gone into that.
Yeah, it just struck me as an incredibly political thing to say. Again, and he obviously decided when he wrote that statement very proudly that he wrote himself that it would be a heavily political statement, and it was.
We got to take another break. Let's do that. More stories when we come back.
I just shot a clip. It's time sensitive and it needs to be edited.
Did anybody call for it? Editor.
Need this in an hour?
Sure, editor too.
Watching all of this very carefully is Simon Wiesenthal.
Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal.
Simon Wiesenthal, leading Nazi hunter in Vienna. Worldwide is the conscience of the Holocaust.
Criminel de guerre famous and successful Nazi hunter.
He is a self-appointed instrument of world justice, but he refuses to let his former tormentors live in peace.
Your organization had tracked down some 1,100 Nazis. Do you think it's still really worthwhile pursuing these men who must by now be deadly old?
Any lasting good is going to come out of tracking down these people relentlessly.
To people who send Wiesenthal, it is time to forget. Stop hunting these former Nazis. Stop torturing yourself and the world and forget.
Enough already. Enough time has gone by. Heartache has gone by. There must be a statute of limitations. Sure. No. You must understand, my office is the last office in the world. Because this is the last office, you cannot close the office. I cannot stop.
Hey Dave, as you can probably see, Skype froze. Frozen crash.
You know, I'm watching a documentary on the Vietnam War, and there was a TV journalist in the middle of some tiny little village in Vietnam doing live TV as the soldiers were burning the Vietnamese huts, and it didn't crash. And that was 1965, and he was in Vietnam.
This is the wildest, craziest motherfucking race I've ever seen.
We have 16 Republican candidates. What are we going to do? Not make brackets?
Let us whisper a dream.
Wait a minute!
Good night, good luck, everybody.
These are the two most unpopular candidates we have ever had in our nation's history.
Jesus Christ, there's significant moves every time Hillary Clinton's name is mentioned.
Everyone I know was voting for her out of fear. He was looking at Donald Trump's hair like it was cotton candy.
Get them all. Get them all.
It's political game. They don't care about lives.
Bow your head. This is what we mean by the establishment press. What does establishment mean?
Yeah, no.
Have you ever good time on this show? What else are you going to want?
People still don't know what the word feminist actually means. So not even that. People are still angered by the word.
People think feminist is a bad word, but it's not.
There are gradations, there are different ways. The people who are against gender equality love to use like militant feminists as the representatives of all feminists. It's untrue.
I don't know why you'd be threatened by strong women unless you were incredibly weak. If you don't have equal rights, or you're not treated the same way, well, wouldn't you be angry? I don't know, I would. Alright, back in the Young Turks, April Science writes in, I think he was crying for himself with the Renata revelation. No remorse. This is from the members section, of course. And Soa Hila writes in, I might be mistaken, but I believe one of the traits of a sexual predator is voyeurism. His kinky questions he prepared for Clinton is a form of voyeurism. By the way, I became an activist member right before your membership drive. Go get them, kids.
Aww.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And TYT.com/join to become a member, support independent media, and make sure that we're serving you guys and not anybody else. And obviously get all of our shows, over a dozen shows, progressive shows that you can watch. It's basically a progressive Netflix, so check it out, tyt.com/join. All right, Anna, what's next?
There might be a huge silver lining in this whole Kavanaugh debacle, and that silver lining is the fact that more people, victims of sexual assault, feel comfortable coming forward and talking to someone about it. Now, callers apparently flooded the National Sexual Hotline during the Ford Kavanaugh hearing. In fact, according to RAINN, the number of people helped by the National Sexual Hotline, Assault Hotline, was 201% above average yesterday. And also over the weekend, the hotline saw 57% uptick compared to an average Friday to Sunday. So leading up to the hearing, we noticed an increase, and then during the hearing, calls just exploded. And so that's important. It means people want to talk about it, they want to report it, they want to do something about it. And so that will have an effect, not just on their own lives, but also on our culture and possibly on the lives of people who surround these victims. So I want to give you an example of that. So yesterday during the hearing, Chris Wallace, who is of course a conservative on Fox News, decided to share his thoughts on the severity of sexual assault. I don't want to give too much away. Let's take a look at the first video.
Was extremely emotional, extremely raw, and extremely credible. And nobody could listen to her deliver those words and talk about the assault and the impact it had had on his life, on her life, and not have your heart go out to her. She obviously was traumatized by an event. I think you're actually being too nice about the format of the hearing. So far, we've heard from 6 people, Rachel Mitchell 3 times for 3 senators, 3 Democratic senators speaking for themselves. This is a disaster for the Republicans. You're exactly right. She is treating this like a deposition, like a court hearing.
So there he is, strong words. This is a disaster for Republicans. This was right after Dr. Blasey Ford testified. And then Chris Wallace shared something very personal. Take a look.
Over the course of this week, like I think a lot of American families, my family, a lot of it on email, has been discussing this and disagreeing and arguing about it. And 2 of my daughters have told me stories that I had never heard before about things that happened to them in high school and hadn't told their parents. I don't know if they told their friends. Certainly had never reported it to police. They weren't as serious as the allegations against Kavanaugh. But the point is that there are teenage girls who don't tell stories to a lot of people, and then it comes up, and I don't think we can disregard that. I don't think we can disregard Christine Blasey Ford and the seriousness of this. I think that would be a big mistake.
Yeah, so we've had TYT members write in very dramatic emails, and we talked about it during the Kavanaugh hearings. I've had women come up to me and tell me stories. So I think it might be a sea change, and I hope it is. And so we know for the great majority of our lives, it was something that people, brushed under the rug. And it was, I think, partly because it's not just the patriarchy and men wanting to control women. Is there an element of that? Of course there is, right? But also because it's embarrassing. And so people don't want to talk about awkward things, uncomfortable things. And then there's an element that a woman told me that is the most powerful for the survivors, which is shame. And it's something you should not feel at all, but our society made you feel it in a lot of ways. And so I think that we're collectively, I hope, beginning to get past that, where people are calling into C-SPAN and telling their stories. A 65-year-old Republican woman called in and said, almost the same thing happened to me, and I've been haunted by it. And the 2 women confronting Senator Jeff Flake by the elevator saying, "This happened to me. How could you let him get away with it? How could you put him on the court?" So
may well change his behavior within an hour.
We're a nation of sexual assault victims. Just ask anyone. Like it was the reveal to Wallace there. That is very common. That is very, very common, and that's why I think it's. I hope that those victims are the ones that change the world. And one thing like that they need to realize, everyone needs to realize that who's watching this, you're agents of history. Like you are agents. The people who have changed the world for the better in the past have had no more courage, power, or intellect than you or I do. You are the agents of history, and so now's the time.
We literally had 2 people tweet in the middle of our hearing coverage yesterday who were men who said, thank you for standing up for survivors, because they were survivors of sexual assault. We had a woman send in a comment from the member section while we're live on air earlier today, talking about how she was sexually assaulted when she was 5 years old. I think that it's a moment where people are saying, you know what, I'm not going to feel embarrassed anymore. And why? Another woman who wrote in explained, it was the one we were talking about yesterday during the hearings. She said, my parents said I was wrong. My parents shamed me, right? And that was from a different era, but it has that history rains down on us through the generations.
And the election of a president who's bragged about it says that she's wrong. The appointment of a judge who perhaps is guilty of it says that she was wrong. This is an important crossroads, like in our country.
Yes, and not just that the judge might be guilty of it, but that there's a whole group of senators who advise and consent on this, who offer their advice and consent on this, who are, doing just the bare minimum to say, oh, she seems credible. But there's literally, I guess there's just no one else who doesn't have these accusations made against him that we could possibly put on the
in the name of putting through a ruling class agenda that they support. It doesn't matter to them what the history is, and that's why it's like there has to be sea change is the right world, and the people who own and control this country don't deserve to.
Right. I wanted to just also add something about Chris Wallace and the interaction he had with his daughters. I really commend them for coming forward and talking to Wallace about it, because they obviously had an impact, and they could have potentially even changed his perspective on this whole situation. Because one of the talking points that we certainly hear from the right is, why did Blasey Ford wait so long? Why is this coming up now? Why are we hearing about this now? It was decades ago. Well, why is Wallace hearing about this for the first time from his own daughters? It's because there is a lot of, unfortunately, shame that the victims feel, because they've been conditioned to feel that way. They've been treated as liars, as scammers, as whatever, and you see other women get treated that way. You see other women get blamed for it. Why were you at that party? Why were you drinking? Why were you wearing a skirt that was too short? It seems like the onus, historically in America, has been on the woman or the person who's been assaulted to protect themselves, or to prevent it from happening in the first place. When in reality, the focus should be on the alleged perpetrator.
So, look, I don't know if this is the moment where we push back and Kavanaugh does not get on the court, and then hence the sea change, or if it's their last stand. But I really believe that they cannot put the genie back in the bottle. So they might put Kavanaugh on the court, but they're not going to get away with it overall. And I think that people are now ready to roar. And remember, a lot of guys, the overwhelming majority of guys, didn't do anything like that, so they've never experienced it. They don't know. So tell them, and I hope that they defend you, and I believe that they will. So don't take those incredibly old Republican senators as the standard bearers for men in this country. They are not. Even if they get their last stand and they put Kavanaugh on the court, it's their last days. Okay, there's a minute left. I'm going to squeeze in a ridiculous thing to do. Try to squeeze in a story in a minute. Rudy Giuliani tweeted, Senator Lindsey Graham distinguished himself today as the fairest man and the best lawyer in Washington. He voted for Justices Sotomayor and Kagan on old-fashioned principles. I also did. If he's going to vote for Judge Kavanaugh, the Senate all should. Rudy Giuliani has never been a senator, and he misspelled both their names.
He spelled Lindsey Graham's name right, and I don't think anybody is focusing on that.
There's some chance the president's lawyer has lost his mind.
Yeah.
No, he spelled Lindsay wrong.
He did spell Lindsay wrong?
Yeah, it's with an E, not an A. I made that mistake yesterday, actually, so I know.
Well, there's something except for consistency there.
Yeah, I was trying to cut him a break.
Nothing else. Yeah. There's that.
Is it possible to do the 25th Amendment on the president and his lawyer?
Lindsey Graham's with an E. He spelled Lindsey Graham's name, Sotomayor's wrong name, Kagan's name wrong, and Giuliani was never in the Senate. Other than that, nailed it. Great tweet.
Why would you think you voted on them? They're all crazy. All right, we gotta go. All right, have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.